Hello, everyone, and welcome to another webinar. Today, it's a very important topic that I want to take on, and it's why women often undervalue their own leadership and what really is it has to do with the confidence, visibility, and opportunity gap. I want to bring some experiences in terms of personal experiences and as well as giving you some insight. I want to start with leadership paradox. It's very important that we understand that we women are highly educated, capable, we are very committed. We have the credentials, the experience, we even have the track records proven through the results or the accomplishments that we have achieved. But yet, um, consistently, the research shows that women often underestimate how ready they are for opportunities compared to their male counterpart and compared to their actual ability. So, when we look at the job description, often we say, well, you know what, I don't really meet the requirement. Or it will be something like, I'm not ready yet. But when we look at the male colleagues or the counterparts, they will look at the same description and they would say, I can figure that out. Let me apply it. And it's really had happened to me personally where I have looked at a job description and says, well, you know what, I don't really fit. So I was speaking to my brother and I say, you know what, I had so much qualification, but there was still like, you know what, there's one thing that's missing that they're asking. And he really taught me saying that, you know what, say yes to it. You can learn on the way. You should say yes to things and then learn on the way. And this is what I've seen really happening. So it's not really about you as an individual or as a woman lacking more of a confidence, but the systematic pattern that we accumulate from the messages or the experiences or the expectations. And then they start showing up and shaping up. And we, at the end, start looking ourselves through that. And of course, how women see themselves is how they are seen. So the question is not whether you, as a woman, have a talent. The most important question is why are your contributions not always visible? And in today's Beyond Blueprint, I want to look at uh, evidence-based information and tell you how you can transform your leadership, your career growth, and transform your workplace. And I really want to focus on how you can look at confidence, visibility, and understand the opportunity gap that exists. And then how can you really reclaim it so that you can maximize your entire leadership or full entire leadership potential. So, giving you some statistics that really capture the essence of leadership gap is that Hewlett Packard they did an internal study and they found that women apply for jobs and promotion only when they are actually 100% meeting the criteria of the qualification. Where on the other hand, men were applying just when they were about 60% ready. And I've talked about it a lot in my previous lectures and keynotes that women really like they wait until they're fully qualified, but men on the other hand will apply when they are partially qualified. So again, obvious is who gets the promotion, the one who applies. And there is this systematic thing that we do that we keep losing out on opportunities. And this is actually replicated repeatedly because research that was done in 2024, where it studied about 5,000 job seekers, and it found that the women were significantly more likely than men to screen themselves out of jobs application when they didn't meet all the listed criteria. Men, by contrast, were more likely to apply even when there were significant lack of experience or qualification. So now some people will hear this and they'll think like women just need to be more confident, but that is the wrong framing. The issue is not a deficit in your confidence or in women's confidence. The issue is that system rewards self-promotion and it actually punishes humility. And how that is, I'll show you. So I'll share another research with you. This was done in 2024 as well by Pew Research Center, and they reported that 62% of women, they say that being self-confident or being ambitious is a key reason why they aren't more women in top leadership positions. So, in other words, women themselves recognize that confidence plays a role, but the same report found that 52% of women will also report facing gender discrimination in their workplace, and 43% say that there are too few women in leadership roles where they work. So it basically creates that uh, feeling of unconscious bias within that. So the confidence gap is real, but it is not related to any sort of personal failing. It is more related to how learned responses to a system then sends this constant message to women on their contribution, that their contribution is not quite enough. And there is a link between a confidence and a competence. So when we do research on leadership, perception that consistently shows up is that women must demonstrate some sort of competence just to be seen as competent. But when men, they just we assume that they are competent until it's proven otherwise. So there was a study that was done by Catalyst, and they found that women in leadership positions are held to a very higher standard than men, and they're expected to deliver results while also being warm, approachable, and collaborative. When they deliver results and they're not really warm, or then they are viewed as very cold, unapproachable. So when they're warm, then they're not delivering the results. So they are seen as ineffective. So it's like a double-edged sword. Doesn't matter which way you go, it's hanging there. And this is a very doable bind, a double bind, and it creates this confidence gap because uh, you are now questioning, is it my ability, or is it just that the rules are different? So in all honesty, it's not your ability, it's more that the rules are different. And I want you to look at this other gap, which is the visibility gap. You can be doing excellent work, and that's not always enough. So leaders also need visibility. They need sponsorship. They need strategic relationships. They need someone in the room who can advocate for them when they're not in that room. And research has consistently shown that women have more mentors than men, but they have fewer sponsors that would actually advocate. And I want you to please understand that there is a difference between mentor and a sponsor. A mentor gives you advice, a sponsor gives you opportunity. A mentor tells you what you need to work on, and a sponsor puts your name forward for a promotion. A mentor helps you develop, whereas a sponsor takes that reputation on you, and they stack it up. They build your credibility. I'll give you an example of Indra Nooyi from Pepsi, a very renowned leadership figure that we talk about in management and in business and in leadership. And she had said that when you are a leader, you groom other and you become so comfortable that you're willing to be replaced by your mentee. And she had encouraged this idea that we need to sponsor. We need to sponsor. We need to put names forward. We need to advocate for women. And I think that's what the whole idea is. So we have to understand that the sponsorship gap is real. You as a woman need to have sponsors, and you can strategically work on having that sponsor. And think of it just like, FIFA. For FIFA is a very big game. So how do you really get these sponsor? It was not something just started out of blue, right? Like, it's a strategic approach. You have sponsors like Pepsi, Adidas, Nike. So and they are willing to put their name, their credibility, their brand identity on stake for your performance, because they're sponsoring you as a team. It's the same thing in your professional career, right? Think of it like you're playing a sport. You need a sponsor who will cheer for you, who will put your name out there, put their credibility, their money on stake, and says, well, you know what, this is the one individual that we believe in. And this sponsorship gap for women is very, very real. There was a study done by Center of Talent and Innovation, and they found that while men and women have similar number of mentors, women are significantly less likely to have sponsors in form of senior leaders who would actively advocate for their advancement. Um, and this really matters. Sponsors really matters because the study found that people with sponsors were more likely to get promoted as compared to those who didn't have sponsor. Why does this really exist as a gap? It's partly because sponsorship networks are often informal, and informal networks tend to be dominated more by men. Partly because women may not either feel comfortable asking for sponsorship, and it partly is because senior leaders who are often men may feel more comfortable sponsoring people who remind them of themselves. And this visibility is evident in research. There was another research that was done by Lean In Organization, and they found that women are less likely to have access to senior leaders and are very less likely to get the visibility that needs to that is needed, but also leads to promotion. So when they do get visibility, they're often asked to take on office housework tasks, kind of like, taking notes, organizing events, while men will be given more visibility assignments. And this is not a conspiracy, it's a pattern of that unconscious biases that plays a big role in our everyday lives in our office, which would be our everyday meetings or performance reviews or promotion decisions. Um, so what really works? The research also shows that what works is that women who have sponsors are more likely to be promoted. So, women who are given high visibility assignments, they have more opportunities to advance. Women who are recognized for their contributions, they more likely to stay within their organization. So the solution is not just asking women to be more visible, it's basically creating system where visibility is distributed more equitably. But for you as an individual, how do you strategically create that sponsorship for you? You are the brand and you want sponsorship. So I'm going to share a case study that was done. And IBM and Ginny Rometty discussed that. It's called A Leadership Journey. Um, and it's kind of interesting how women who navigate these challenges, how remarkably they do. So there's Judy Rometty became the first female CEO of IBM back in 2012, but her journey to the top was not a linear one. It was not very straightforward. So early on in her career, she was asked to lead a major initiative, and her response was, she said she wasn't ready. So she had to do a lot of learning, and she had to kind of really do a lot of getting up to speed. And her boss said something that kind of changed her trajectory. And what said to her was that, I knew you would say that. I have never heard a man say that. That was the moment that became a complete 360 turning point for Rometty. She realized that her instinct to wait until she was fully ready was actually holding her back. So she took the role, she learned on the job, and she eventually became one of the most successful CEOs of her generation. So the key insight is that Rometty just did not just lean in and became more confident. She had also built that visibility. She sought out strategic assignments, she cultivated sponsors who would advocate for her. She understood that capability would not be only a factor and it was not going to be only enough. She would have to be really seen as needed, heard, and she needs to be championed for. So when she became CEO, her trajectory was to then make it a priority to create pathways for other women. So under her leadership, IBM actually launched a program to increase the number of women in senior roles and to ensure that sponsorship was available to women and underrepresented groups. So what we really can learn from this is, I'm going to leave you with a few lessons here. Lesson number one is, waiting until you're fully ready may keep you from being considered. Sometimes you just need to step into the role before you feel ready and then grow into it. And think of it like your driving lessons. you didn't know driving. You had to sit behind the wheel. You had to start somewhere. And then eventually you got confident. And now if you drive and you look back, you mostly be driving on highways, on autopilot, or on the streets like that you're driving and commuting to work, you are on autopilot because that confidence has now developed, right? Lesson number 2 is sponsorship really matters. You need sponsors who can advocate for you. Think of yourself as a brand, and you as a brand needs to be put out there. So who's willing to invest in you? Who's willing to promote you? Who's willing to put their credibility online for you? Okay, and that will make the biggest difference. The lesson number 3 is that when you advance, make sure you bring others with you. So the goal is not just for you as an individual success. You need to make sure that you understand that there is a systematic change that's needed, and then you can step into it. So one thing that I want you to really focus on and really think about is how do you navigate this confidence gap? How you're going to navigate this visibility gap? And how do you come out of this double bind? Okay. So from this, I can give you this one blueprint that I want to leave you with. It's your keep this as your woman's leadership, and this is going to be above and beyond just that one script. This is the framework that I want you to work on. So your first step is going to be you are going to understand your own expertise. Okay, and it's not about arrogance that I'm this and I'm that. It makes me at times really uncomfortable when I have to list my credentials and my achievements. Yes, it will make you uncomfortable, but you have to remember it's not arrogance. Okay, it's about you acknowledging that you have earned your place. I'll give you one tip. Every time you do something that is very difficult, write it down and note it down. When you go back and visit it, your mind becomes familiar. It has this track record. It has this evidence or proof that when it looks back, it says, yeah, I've done it before. I can do it. And referring back to the Hewlett-Packard study that shows that women apply only when they're 100% qualification, this and men apply when they're 60% ready. So you don't need to be 100% ready. Okay, you need to get out of that, get into the habit of learning on the job. Practice this. So before you dismiss any opportunity because you do not meet every qualification, ask yourself, would a man with my credentials apply for this? If the answer is yes, consider applying it. Don't just skip it. Step number 2 in your framework, increase your visibility. Do not only contribute behind the screen. Communicate your impact. Visibility is not about bragging, but it is about ensuring that people who make decisions know what you have achieved. So I want you to get into a practice by updating your resume, regularly update your resume, regularly update your LinkedIn, not just when you are applying for a job, but whatever you have accomplished, it goes on your resume. From personal experience, I really have started doing that. Every time I finish a course, I upgrade myself. I do some kind of credentials. It goes on LinkedIn and it goes in my resume. For a very long time, my resume had been very incomplete. And I just didn't realize how much I was leaving on the table by not putting it out there. The other thing you should get in habit of doing is speaking up in meetings and sharing your ideas. Doesn't matter if it's wrong, doesn't matter what feedback you're gonna get. Sharing will give you that feedback that you could then critically evaluate and upgrade yourself accordingly. And not every feedback is going to be critical for you, so you can take some with grain of salt, some you can really evaluate, see its worth, and apply it. And ask for high visibility assignments. So please don't just take work to keep you busy, take the work that makes you visible. Be very, very strategic in relationships that you're building with senior leaders. You need people who can advocate for you. The step number 3 of your framework should be, as I said, so building strategic relationships. So understand a difference between a mentor and a sponsor, and have yourself a mentor. A mentor will be someone who's going to give you advice, but the sponsor is going to be someone who's going to advocate for you. You need both of them. You don't need just one. So as I said previously, research shows that sponsors are especially important for advancement. So the one thing that you could start doing right now is get into the practice of identifying senior leaders who have stake in your success. Be very clear about what you're looking for. I want to advance to this level? Can you help me understand what I need to do? And can you advocate for me? These are the two questions that you should ask. One is, I want to advance to this level, have this written out because this is your goal objective, your destination where you're getting. And then the two questions that follow is, can you help me understand what I need to do? And can you advocate for me? Also, the important thing is, once you have your own sponsors, try becoming someone else's sponsor. Okay, you lift others, you get uplifted. And the fourth thing that I want you to really ground into is leading with authenticity. Do not shrink yourself to fit expectation. It's the research is very clear. The women who lead authentically are more effective than women who try to fit a traditional leadership mold. So authentic leadership gives you an opportunity to build trust, engagement, and performance. So how do you build that? Get into a practice of knowing your value and lead from those values. Do not pretend to be someone you are not, because every time you adapt your style without understanding who you are abandoning your true self. Then it becomes a burden. And most importantly, surround yourself with people who see your potential, not just your performance, but they see your potential. And that's how you work with this framework. So I leave you with one thing. I want you to sit and reflect. Please try to understand. Are you underestimating your own leadership? Are you really waiting until you're ready while others are stepping forward with less? So confidence, visibility, and opportunity gap is real, but it's not inevitable. By owning your expertise, increasing your visibilities, building strategic relationships, and then leading authentically, all these elements can really help you overcome these barriers. If you're a woman watching this, please stop waiting, start stepping forward. You have earned your place. You just need the world to realize that they need your leadership. And also, please examine your promotion sponsorship process. Are you getting it, and are you also giving visibility and opportunities to others that they deserve it? So if you find this insightful, valuable, please like, subscribe to this channel. I'll appreciate that. Share it with any woman that in your network who needs to hear it. And if you really want to go deeper, I'm available to do more deeper work with you and give you some resources that would help you. Thank you for listening, and I will meet you in the next webinar.